Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about 10.10 period of sine and cosine. So yesterday we were talking about amplitude, right? Anybody remember what is amplitude? Let's try with the do now. Find the amplitude of y equal to 1.5 sine theta. Sine theta means angle and graph it. What is amplitude? Yeah, you can find it, right? 1.5, yes. This number. And then if you put it into the calculator, 1.5 times sine theta, what happened? The graph, the maximum and minimum value changes, right? The center line is still in the y equal to 0 line, right? So, oops. So you can draw the graph, or if you want to see it, let's go to the calculator. What do you do? Go to the y code and change 1.5 times sine x is the angle instead of theta, and enter and go to the graph. Oh, it's not flat, right? It's not flat. But if it is flat, what should you do? You go to the zoom, right? Zoom and find the trick, then you will see the graph. So let's go there. Where is the highest value? 1.5, right? 1.5, what should you do? You should label here 1.5, please. So you better go by 0.5 then. 0.5, 1, 1.5, like, and 2. All right, and negative 0.5 here, you better label negative 1, negative 1.5. This calculator will not label for you, but you should label it in your graph. And then when x-axis, here what is the degree? 90 degrees and 180 degrees, 270, 360 degrees. But as a radian, pi over 2 radian, pi radian, 3 pi over 2 radian, 2 pi radian, right? Negative also go the same way. So everybody understand about the graph? Good. So now, today we are going to talk about period. What's the period? Period is the length of one cycle of the curve. One cycle. So let's start from here. For sine curve, the amplitude is 3, so it goes up by 3 and go down by 3, negative 3, right? But one cycle start from here, sine start from here, 0, 0. Keep going up and down, touch the 0 in the 180 degrees, go down in the 270 degrees, and go back to the 0 again. But this is not one cycle up to here. Goes up and down and back. This is a whole cycle, right? Up to 2 pi or 360 degrees. And you see, keep repeating from negative also, right? Like this. So what is the period? Length of a whole cycle. You are not measure this length of the graph, right? X domain from here to here. So what is the length? From 0 to here. So this is the period, one cycle. So 2 pi radian or 360 degrees. But not always these trigonometry functions have only the 2 pi radians. Let's look at the formula with the other function. Period is 2 pi over b. 2 pi is 360 degrees. 360 degrees over 2 pi divided by b. What is the b? What is the b? Let's see. So your function the format is like this. Y equal to A times cosine or sine, doesn't matter. And B times A. Oh, B is in the parentheses in front of the X, right? So A is amplitude, absolute value A. And how do you find the period? 2 pi over B. So let's see with the example. 3 times cosine 4x. What's amplitude? 3. What's the period? 2 pi over 4. 2 pi over 4. Or 360 degree divided by 4, right? So 360 degree divided by 4 is 90 degrees, with or pi over 2. So pi over 2 is what, 90 degrees, right? That's one cycle. So we know that cosine curve, as you see the graph, now you know how to put into the calculator. If you put into the calculator, you will see the graph shape is like this. Start from when x is 0, now amplitude 3, you start from here. And first you are going to always, the mark the intervals, make 4 intervals for x-axis and go further, but 4 intervals. 4 intervals for one cycle. So make the period here. So one cycle from here to here, what is the length? That's the period, right? For your cycle, one cycle of the cosine from start from the highest, touch the 0, go to the minimum, touch the 0, go to the highest. That's a one cycle. But what's the period? 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2, 90 degrees. So here you will see, what should I label here? This is 90 degrees or pi over 2, all right? So when you label, so your period is pi over 2, is here. Which means in the 360 degree range, right? In the domain from 0 to 360 degree, how many graph you are going to draw? How many cycle? 4 cycle. How many times this 4 means how many times you can draw how many cycle? So cosine function you can draw in the 360 degrees 4 times. Okay. So period is 2 pi or 360 degree divided by this number 4. So you write down, now look, I cut this interval by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what degree? 90 degrees or pi over 2 here. Then what is over here? This will be in the middle, 45 degrees, right? Or half of pi over 2 is pi over 4. Then this is pi over 8. And when you do this one, you go by pi over 8, 2 pi over 8, which is a pi over 4, and 3 pi over 8. And this is 4 pi over 8 or pi over 2. You need to label this way. So first, you determine here, right? Pi over 2. Then go by half here. And this one, another half of this. And then 3 times here, 1, 2, 3 here. We should label pi over 2 like this. Everybody understand? That's the period. And that's all about today. So you're going to practice with this. How to find out period. Just use the formula, but you should remember the formula. 2 pi, 2 pi is 360 degrees divided by what? The B4, right? 2 pi divided by 4 will be like this. So pi over 2 you have here. and then make a 4 intervals from 0 to here, make a 4. So divide by 4, divide 4 intervals, and then half, another half, and 3 times. So half over 2, pi over 2 is pi over 4. Half of pi over 4 is half times, pi over 4 is half of pi over 4 is pi over 8. And then go by pi over 8, pi over 8, pi over 8, 3 pi over 8. All right? So that way you should label this. Then you are done. So far you learned how to determine the amplitude. You know how to determine the period. You can draw the cosine curve or sine curve for any function. So everybody remember, right? So take a look, get this. Now you can do it by yourself. So now this is error analysis. Where's the question? Y equals 3 times sine 2x. Can you find out what is the period? Amplitude, is it correct? Is the period correct? You know the formula, right? Then can you correct it? Looks like the period is wrong, right? What is it? 2 pi divided by 2. 2 pi divided by 2 is pi. So it's not 2. So it should be pi here, pi radian, right? And what is here? Pi radian is 180 degrees. And you cut this into 4 intervals. So in the middle, half of pi is pi over 2. This one will be pi over 4. This will be 3 pi over 4. You label these. So because the second step, period was wrong, your graph shape is okay, but the interval is wrong, right? The label is wrong. So can you correct it? And it'll be like this. So I think everybody understand how to find out amplitude and period, right? So in the 2 pi range, how many graph? How many cycles? 2 cycles, right? Because you have 2 here. So now you have how many graphs you will see in your packet? 5 graphs, I think. Then you are extra. So please finish your work and email it to me. Okay, I'll stop here.